Hi, welcome to Cooking with Amar. Today we're going to be talking about grinders. We have a variety of grinders. We got to grind meat, we got to grind vegetables, we got to blend, we got blenders and grinders to chop things for coffee. Now I'm going to go one by one of all the grinders that I have. I'm sure there are much more, but these are a few of them that are out in the homes and in the food business. The first one is a meat grinder. This is a home meat grinder, and it comes in a compact size like this. You have different parts of the grinder. First of all, this is the tray where you put your food in. This is a pusher. Never use your fingers and put them in the hole. This is what the pusher is for. In the front, you have different parts. You have your blades, and you have, this is the auger that pushes the meat forward, and it goes in like that. Then you have your knife. The knife goes in only one way. You can put it like this, but it won't work. The flat side where the blades are sharp goes in. Then this is the screen. The meat is pushed against this screen, and the knife turns around like this and cuts the meat as it passes through the screen. All these parts need to be treated with delicacy because they're precision items, and they require you to handle them with care. You need to wash them each time. Take the machine apart and wash them. Be careful not to cross thread the enclosure. Always unplug your machine whenever you're working with it. Cleaning it, assembling it, that sort of thing. The next one is, this is called a food processor. Some people call it a chopper. There are a variety of names. Basically, it's a food processor because it processes food in different ways. Okay? You have different parts to this machine. This machine can be used for chopping and grinding food. You can do meats and vegetables, you can do sauces, a variety of things. This is a knife. It's a double bladed knife, and you have to be very, very careful. It's very sharp. It goes in that way. This pusher has to be taken out first before you can close the lid properly. You close this, and you always use a pusher. Safety is a big thing. Stop. So you put the food in here and you push down gently like this. Okay. When you're working with this machine, you need to keep the cover closed. As a matter of fact, it won't run. This particular model will not run with the cover off. You pour your oils and water and pour your ingredients in here. And now we're going to talk about the blender. There's so many different kinds of blenders. There's Oster, there's Ninja, there's a whole variety of them. This one is a Ninja, and if you see, there are no buttons on it. I like this machine because it's a cut and dry machine. You put it in there, turn it on, and you're done. I don't have to wait for it to stop. I don't have to push any buttons deciding which one to push. It's very simple. This one has, this is a 60-ounce canister. It comes with a locking lid, which I like very much. As you can see, the handle doesn't move. It has a pouring spout which has a lid which you can close. It has your cutter, and this is a special cutter because most blenders, the cutter is only on the bottom, so this food is spinning down at the bottom, and it doesn't cut very easily because it takes a long time and there's lots of chunks. But this has 3 levels of blades. Each one cuts and spins in one direction. Okay. Now this is an intermittent machine in the sense that when you release the handle, it stops. So you're in control of how long you want it to blend and how long when you want it to stop. So with all blenders, the lids have to be closed. This one is especially nice is because it will not operate in any way if the lid is off. This is protecting your fingers, protecting food from coming out. It's great. I love this machine. It's a Ninja, and I use it because I can use hot foods and hot liquids in here without getting burnt. Many of you have used blenders. When I first started cooking when I was young, I didn't know about blenders like this. I put the food in there, it was hot, I pushed the button and it popped the lid out, sprayed food all over. I'm sure many of you had that, some of you had that problem, some of you didn't. You're wiser than me. So again, this is an awesome blender. You can even, when you've got food in here, you can store it. If you have some leftovers here and you don't want to transfer it in a container, but you intend to use it again, you can store it in the fridge like this. This is locking. You cannot pull this apart. You can see I can try, but I can't pull it apart. It's a locking unit. It will not start just leaving like this. You have to lock it. Again, safety first. Whenever you're working with the blender, removing the blades, covers, whatever, make sure you're unplugged. That way you're safe. All right. Now, I earlier talked about a food processor. Sometimes that big one is too bulky and you don't want to have to use it because you're not using much, you just use small quantities of food. Using that, you can still use it, but it's too cumbersome. So I have a small one. There are different kinds on the market. This one is a Cuisine Art, and it comes with a bowl, comes with a lid, and comes with a knife. You saw this is very similar to the other knife. It's very, very sharp. This is one of the first ones I had, and it's about my favorite because when you cook and you use some wet spices like ginger and garlic and coriander and a variety of different things, you can use this. Its assembly is a little bit different. You first have to put the bowl, and it locks in one position only. Then your lid goes on, and then your cover comes on. Now this got a little bit of advantage in sense you don't have to open up the lid to pour liquids like oils or vinegar or any liquid that goes in your mix. So you can even scramble eggs in this. You can pour eggs in here, put your salt and pepper and your seasonings, whatever you want, and it can make a great blend for an omelet. So this won't start again with the lid just like this. There's a little protrusion right here that has to go inside this slot here and locks, and inside it there's a, you can hear it even click, there's a little switch that is depressed. And then in the front here you have two buttons. This is not a very complicated machine. It has two buttons, but what's specific about this one is it has something called chop and grind. So in chop it turns in one direction, and grind it turns in another direction. Now let me show you what's happening. I'll just show you the blade. If you look at the blade, one side is sharp, the other side is dull. Okay? So when you grind, you want to use a rough surface that hits the food. So this blade turns in one direction towards this area. That means if it's turning around like this, that would be for chopping or slicing. And it spins very fast. Do not put your fingers inside the bowl. You can't put your fingers anyway in while it's turning. It's a safety measure. The lid is completely enclosed, and it has got two holes that you can pour liquid through. The other side chops. Now this machine does not have a continuous mode where you push the button and it stays. This gives you control. This gives you control on how long you want it to chop or grind. So this is always and only a pulse mode. So you push and release, push and release, push and release, depending. Sometimes I use both, because especially in stuff like coriander leaves, which I want to use parts of the stem, it tends to want to bind up in one place. So by hitting the other button, it rotates in the opposite directions and dislodges anything. But you also don't want to hold it down for a long period of time, because the motor can overheat. It's good practice always to push it down and release. Push it down and release. Okay. Well, this, everybody's heard of this, called the NutriBullet. There are different brands, and you'll see I have another one that I'm going to talk about later. And this one specifically is used for grinding and blending. What's the difference between the two? Blend generally means to mix everything together. Grind means to puree it, to break it down in tiny pieces. Now this particular machine is used for like making drinks, smoothies, that sort of thing. So you can use ice in it, and you can use things like nuts, that sort of thing. But when you're making drinks, you don't want chunks in your drink. It's hard to drink anything which has got bits and pieces in it. So it grinds it into really fine pieces that you can swallow easily. So let's look at what it really has. This consists of the motor. Remember, when working with this, always unplug it. You know, we don't want to be heroes. We want to be safe. Okay. This has a drain hole. Right down here is a drain hole. So if liquid drips in down here, it'll come down and come out of this little hole right there. That's a good thing. Okay. If you notice the blade, the part that turns the blade, it's safe. There's no sharp things. So same thing, you have a complementary piece, and it's made of rubber. It's not solid plastic, so it takes up shock very quickly. All right. So this is a handle for your container. So you can use it like turn the mug into a cup. Okay. So you have your cup. It seems like it's upside down, but the way it's designed, All the ingredients are right there. Now this is the special blade. Some grinders, as you'll see later, I'll show you, have one blade, one kind of blade, and another kind of blade separately. This one has both. Does it really matter? Yes. It saves you from having to switch blades each time. So the one blade right here at the bottom will chop the pieces into small pieces. Now I told you about grinders it has a dull thing, because the dull part hitting against the surface cracks it and breaks into smaller pieces. So this is a two-part blade. You have the chopper and you have the crusher, and it spins. This one spins in one direction only, and even though it seems like it says sharp, you can't cut yourself on this blade unless you forcibly do that. But this one at the bottom here is, you can cut yourself. It's sharp. This is for chopping, this is for grinding. Very similar to the blender I showed you earlier. So this has a seal on it to keep it from leaking. And as you can see, the labels on these things that come, that you should leave on there. Don't be peeling off these warning labels. If they come off, they come off, but try to keep them on. Now, this has an on-off switch by turning this. This locks in one position, and you have to push down. You have to push down. You see, you have to push it down and lock it. So let's see how that works. I won't do that. Today it doesn't want to seem to do it. But you push down and turn it and locks. And you keep it on. Again, all grinders and machines are this. You don't want to keep it running for a long period of time because you don't want to overheat the motor. The motor has a fan in it, but most of these do. But still, you don't want to hold it for long periods of time. And simple as that. You put your food in here, blend it, and you're done. You can put ice in it, make smoothies, you can make milkshakes, you can make a whole variety of drinks. Alright, this is the second kind of blender. It's the same style. It's made by Faberware. And it's quite inexpensive. This one I bought for $20. Brand new from the retail store. And if you can see, the blade is different. The blade turner, it's made of plastic. It's not shock resistant. It also has a drain hole right there. Most of these do, because these tend to create liquid that drip if it does from the seal here, so it won't mess up the motor. Again, this works the same way. It locks down there and turns like that. Okay, and once you engage it, it will run until you disengage it. Looking at this, it's the same style as a NutriBullet, except this one has only one style of blade. It has another one just like this. This one is a cutter. It's got the sharp ends. This is nothing. This doesn't really serve as a crusher, but it's a cutter also. So this is a two-step. First you have to put this blade on if you're making a smoothie, grind up everything that you have. In other words, actually chop up everything you have, then switch the blade and use the grinder to make it a smoothie. So if you can afford something like the NutriBullet, you can buy something like this. It just takes a little longer to go ahead and do what you want to do. Again, safety first. Always remove the plug whenever you're working with the machine. Safety practice. This also has a cooling fan. Again, don't run these motors for a long period of time so that it doesn't overheat the motor. It will keep your machines lasting much longer. Okay. Not everybody has this kind of machine, but it's a good machine for if you like to cook a lot to have. Everybody knows what this one is. This is a coffee grinder. It has a, you can notice the blades in there. It's a grinder. It's not, it's a little bit sharp, but not sharp like the food processor blades are. And it spins really super fast. So you put your coffee in here and you close the lid. And this one is a simple on-off, on-off, on-off. There's no way to engage this machine unless you take a utensil and poke it in holes and stuff like that. But that's the type of thing you really don't want to do when you're working on the machines. Unplug the blade, the plug. So this only uses dry ingredients, like with no moisture at all, because it's not designed for that. So this one I use for coffee, but I also use this for other things. Always keep your machines always clean at any time, because you can use it for coffee, you can use it for nuts, you can use it for spices, you can use it for a variety of things. Now, I always keep them clean so that they don't absorb the flavor from something else. So I have two of these. One I use for dry spices, one I use for coffee. That way I don't have a problem with contaminating the flavors. Okay, so this one I use for coffee, and I use whole coffee beans which are roasted, and I grind them in here. And again, there is no on and stay on switch. You push it on and then release off. So you again do it in pulses. Any grinder you have, unless it's designed for long periods of running, you only want to do it in short bursts. On, off, on, off, like that. Okay. Now we're talking about grinders. Anybody who come and watch this, let's talk about grinders. This is also a coffee grinder, but this is a very special machine in the sense it has this feature here, which I'll talk about in just a few minutes. Now, this has a bowl which is like a measuring bowl, cup. This is equivalent to a cup. Okay, and it has its measurements here: 4 ounces, 8 ounces, 12 ounces, 15 ounces. Okay, so it could also be used for 4 cups of coffee, 8 cups of coffee, 12 cups of coffee, and 15 cups of coffee. And if you notice, the further you go up, the closer the things are, then the gradients are, because it's wider on the top. So this is just like the other one, and the bowl needs to be cleaned every time. Now let's talk about this particular one. This locks to turn. The other one just push down. Okay, so you lock it, keeps it from coming off. Specifically, the reason for that is this runs on its own. You can push this button and walk away. It'll run and then turn off. Now you ask, what is all this all about? The first one is fine. If you want to grind it really fine, this is medium and this is coarse. Okay, and in between you have gradients also. So in between, fine and coarse and that sort of thing. So you set your desire, what you want, and then you push this button. Once you push this button, it starts, runs for the program time, and then stops. I like this feature very much. This is the only one I've seen that really does this as a coffee grinder. This is a Hamilton Beach custom chef. And then it has a rotary base that rolls up to your cord. So it's really nice. Again, use this only for dry spices or dry coffee. What I use this for is grinding chilies, because You can make it into fine powder, or you can make it into coarse. So when you boil it, it'll be basically like brewing tea, and then you strain it out and leave. If you want powder where you're going to add it as a spice and it's going to remain like that, you want to put it on fine because you don't want chunks and try to swallow all of that stuff. So this is a great grinder. You might ask me why I have two different grinders. Well, as you can see, they both serve a different purpose. One I use for just coffee, the other one I use for spices. And I use this custom chef for spices because I want my grind. So you roast whatever. It could be black pepper, it could be bay leaves, it could be chilies, it could be any of your dry spices that you roast, sesame seed, and then you put it in here and you grind it to the level you want it. Okay. This is what I would like every chef, every cook at home to have. This is called a mortar and this is called a pestle. But this is actually a Mexican device and we call this a molcajete. Molcajete. It's simply a mortar pestle and it's used for grinding soft spices. I can also do dry spices, but it grinds it into a paste. You never want to hit these two surfaces together. It's used for grinding. It's a porous rock made out of like a lava rock. You'll see them usually black, and it's very porous. If you've ever seen lava rock, it's very porous and it works wonderfully because it produces a nice grinding surface. So you put your wet surface there and you push in others, and you push it against the bowl and you smash it up. And then you can actually use this motion and grind it. It's two stone surfaces rubbing against each other, and whatever's in between it gets ground up really well. So you want to store this in the box that came in because it's protective. I kept the box because it has a perfect storage system in here. Now, if you wash this, let it dry completely before putting it in the box because the box is made of cardboard. You don't want to destroy the box. And secondly, you have to be very careful. This is heavy. If it was light, it wouldn't do its job effectively. So be careful, you don't drop it on your toes. And the motor is in its box, and then the pestle is also in its own box. It stores nicely and safely. Okay. This is called a mandolin. Why the mandolin? Whoever designed it called it a mandolin. And this is a multi-blade slicer. Again, like I said, whenever you use anything with a blade and potential of cutting your fingers, you need to use safety. It usually comes with a pusher. In this situation, it is a pusher, as you can see. The food is held in here and it gradually pushes the food down to the surface level. It will take any sort of injury rather than in your fingers. I personally have had problems with using a mandolin before because when I first started cooking, I was very hesitant and I tried to do things very, very quickly, and safety was not something that I considered at the beginning, and I've learned through the years. I've been cooking for 30 plus years. Now, the food is held in this like potatoes, onions, any soft food. You can even slice meat with this, but you have to have the meat cooked. So it slides just like this, and you slice it down back and forth like this. Okay, this is a specialized mandolin in the sense it has no removable blades, but you can slice it by turning it this way. Now you can make French fries. This is for shoestring, and you can make big fries. So you can slice the potatoes in one direction, simultaneously then slice it in the other direction, and it goes down. It comes out from underneath, sliced in the manner you want it. Be very careful. Don't think that just because you have a guard, you're safe. Anytime with working with open blades, you always have to be very careful. This is excellent for slicing onions, potatoes, especially making fries. And then we have another part which also is similar. Okay, this all fits on a bowl, so it'll fit actually like this, and sit on the rim of the bowl here, and this will be inside, and you slice down here. This is a grater, and it grates it very, very nicely. You can do cheeses, you can do potatoes, you can do vegetables. For stuff that you don't want to pull out your big food processor, all of the food processor, but you want small pieces, you use it against this. So it's a two-direction, down and then up, down, up, down, up, like this, till your food is completely processed. You still have to use a cutter, a holder. Okay, so that's your mandolin slicer. It comes in different kinds. This is the best kind I like. Okay. Everybody needs one of this. This, if you've seen, is another kind of chopper. It could come on the knife groups or chopper groups. This has two sets of blades that are already built in. It can come off and you turn it around. That's what this is all about. Now you might be able to get different parts to this, but when you buy it, this is what you get. The big and small. I use this like cubing potatoes when I want to make a hash, or if I want to make a ground beef and potato. Something really quick. I don't use this for French fries because obviously you can see it doesn't take. You could try making French fries with this, but there's not very much movement. You want a movement that goes up and down like this, so you can handle large potatoes. Secondly, the bowl is not very deep, so it'll be more problem for you to make French fries unless you're small potatoes like that. You put your potato or your vegetables, whatever you want to do. I use tomatoes, onions, bell peppers, chilies, potatoes. Doesn't do meat because it's too hard. Now if you've got cooked meat and you want in little cubes, like you can probably use that. This particular one has a feature that automatically cleans the pusher. If anybody have used this, you've seen that food tends to get in these grooves, and there's another kind that comes with a comb that you can clean them out, and can be kind of cumbersome, can be a pain, laborious, taking thing. So you push it and it pushes the food out, and you can just rinse it out under the water. It has a motion that goes down on this. Be careful, this is plastic. You don't want to treat it roughly because it will break. I have broken a couple before by pushing it too hard. So you put the thing down there and you just like that. Like that. You don't want to go all the way from there down on this. That's too much force that you're applying. And don't press this button while you're pushing it because it's not going to help you at all. Now you can put all your ingredients in here, rinse it out, and use it. Some of these come with measurings on the sides that tell you how many cups. This one doesn't. But it's a good tool to have. Someone say, why do I have so many different tools? Why can't I just use a knife? It's all about convenience too. Cutting and cubing can take a very long time to do something that you could do in just a short period of time. Speed doesn't necessarily mean you're doing a good job, but it can make things a lot easier when you're doing your prep work. Prep work is cutting the onions, cutting the tomatoes, cutting the meat, cutting various things, preparing them for cooking. So there's always two parts to cooking. You have your prep, and then you have your actual cooking. So you don't. It's not about being lazy. It's being about efficient and getting the stuff uniform. This is uniform in size. So your pieces will always be the same size. So it's something about that. You need to have food. Someone say, well, what's the big deal with it? You're going to chew it anyway. It's going to end up the same way. But in reality, it's all about what the food looks like. Okay, you want the food to look a particular way. When the food looks really nice, and especially when you plate it, the way the food lies, the way the food is placed on the plate, that's called plating. You want it to look appetizing. So at that time, you want to make sure everything's done right. Well, I want to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'll have a link below on some of these items that you might be interested in. And we look forward to the next video. Have a good day.